This week, if you show us your tech stack, we'll show you ours. 6 pieces of tech that'll change the game. Welcome to the Profit Cash Growth Podcast. This is the podcast for 6- and 7-figure business owners who are looking to grow a financially successful business. My co-host, Claire Hancock, is a finance director, chartered accountant, and entrepreneur. And every week, I'll be exploring guidance and frameworks designed to help you increase your profits, improve your cash flow, and grow your business. This week, Claire, it's been a while since we've been through some of our better YouTube and TikTok comments. I thought this was the week. And
oh, God, okay.
To be honest, we should have waited because with your attire today, I reckon these comments could come back next week even better.
Sorry, what's wrong with what I'm wearing today?
I don't know. We'll see. So, should we start with YouTube, the more professional of the two, yeah?
Okay, go for it.
So, favourite comment of the last few weeks was, did you iron that shirt by trampling and stomping all over it?
Oh, God, okay.
Which I thought was good enough until 30 minutes later, the same person put the follow-up comment, on second thoughts, I couldn't care less if it was a bin bag.
Okay, weird. So they've gone from hating me to weirdly liking me, apparently.
So that was a bit of a strange one. But I think my number one on TikTok just said the words, and I didn't know what it meant at the time. It literally just said, babe and Summers has plenty. And I didn't realise what it's about until you said to me, that's because I'm talking about the magic bullet. Do you not remember? There's no way when you said there's no magic bullet.
Oh my God, okay. Maybe it should have said silver bullet. Not magic bullet, because that is something different.
I don't know what you're talking about, but I get the idea.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so as professional as ever, our
got to love TikTok, haven't you?
Esteemed audience that are not listening in podcast form, but listening in short snippet form. But
on TikTok,
yeah. We weren't disappointed when our marketing to TikTok connection severed this week, and we haven't been able to fix it for a few days, were we?
No, we certainly didn't.
It's not our core audience, let's put it that way.
We certainly didn't lose any of our traditional audience, let's say.
Great. Right, let's move straight on to this week's news story of the week. So I knew you'd love this one, Claire. I literally saw the headline. I had to snip it and put it straight into the podcast. The headline simply said, are AI in global markets about to make accountancy sexy?
Yeah, I'd love this to be true. But I mean, honestly, when did I start studying finance? Like 20 years ago? And this is what people were talking about then. The big thing was that tech was taking over and CFOs were moving more towards like adding value and not crunching numbers. That's all they say in this industry. But honestly, I think we've got to have a complete, I hate to say it, but some people need to
generational,
generation. We need a generational shift.
It's the same with most industries. It's like lawyers are the same. Like the tech's there and they could be absolutely freaking amazing. And there will be, like your business in accountancy, there will be companies that are coming through that are just wiping the floor with them. Absolutely wiping the floor with them in every way because they're completely embracing tech. So this is that top firms say that the role is no longer the stereotypical bean counter, but a tech-savvy problem solver commanding some of the top salaries in Britain. So the premise of the story was that accountancy is evolving, which you disagree with slightly, but from number crunching to strategic and tech-enabled decision-making, AI is starting to transform the role with, some of the more automation, allowing accountants to focus really on higher value work, which is, again, exactly where we're at and what we do and, adding real strong value. The big firms, Deloitte, KPMG, they're rebranding their profession completely to try to attract more digital natives into their business. So again, they're really trying to focus down that line. Yeah,
it's interesting because we're recruiting at the moment, and now the first opening line in every single one of our job adverts that we put out, regardless of what role it is are you a tech-savvy accountant? Are you a tech-savvy bookkeeper? Whatever it is we're recruiting for. Yeah, and that is the number one thing. And we put it in the very start of the advert. We say a lot of what we do is about suggesting software and tech to our clients. You've got to be tech-savvy and into it. You've got to love it.
And we've heard this before. There's a huge talent gap in accountants. They said ahead, I think it's already here. They reckon 60,000 accountant shortfall is projected by 2050.
Well, it's a dying profession, isn't it?
But you're making it cool again, aren't you?
Well, hopefully.
Well, we're making it cool again.
Making it cool.
I mean, 10 years' time, this podcast is going to be Stephen Bartlett, watch out.
I think that there is, you could probably categorise accountants into three sections. I think you could say that there's the accountants that are your traditional old school accountants that are not into tech and they are your bean counters.
Yeah.
Then you've got your swathes of, I really don't, I'm maybe going to get some backlash for saying this, but I'm just going to say mums, people that think, I see this all the time, there's dedicated Facebook groups to it, people that are like, oh, I don't like my job anymore, so I decided to study accountancy.
Have a go, heroes.
Yeah, I think it's people that think that doing bookkeeping and things like that is a good part-time job.
It is.
It is, because it can
under
be
the umbrella of a really, really top firm.
Yes. And so they don't really have the skills for it. They're not really engrossed in the tech and things like that. And then I think you've got people like me who are maybe a bit younger, a bit more tech savvy and have come through in that generation. But I mean, we were on
You're the hybrid, aren't you, between, the wisdom and
CTO
the tech.
and a CFO.
Absolutely cut straight through. And
look at what we're discussing this week. We're building a piece of software, aren't we? And moving forward with that. So I think it talks about how different I am to maybe an older generation of accountant. Yeah,
absolutely. And to be honest with you, this news story, obviously, it must have some legs because it leads us on very nicely to this week's deep dive and everything we're talking about today.
Yes, it does.
So this week, Claire, we're going to talk about the 6 pieces of tech that is essential for your finance function, aren't we?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that we are very clear on at Profit Cash Growth is our tech stack. And that is a phrase that if you say tech stack to most accountants, they're probably like, what the hell is that? But basically, a tech stack is your suite of preferred software.
Yeah.
And this is what we like our clients to use. It's also what we recommend to our clients. Now, I will say before we start, we're not affiliated in any way with any of these pieces of software that we're recommending. It's simply because we think that they are best in class and we think that they are right for
what you do,
for the size business that we work with, for 7-figure businesses. So that's why we're suggesting them.
Okay, great. So let's start then. Number 1 is?
So it's Xero.
So you've gone straight in for the big one.
I have gone straight in for the big one.
Just the whole accounting system.
Now, there are some businesses out there that as you're approaching maybe more towards the 8 figures, it's appropriate for you to have what's known as an ERP, which is an enterprise resource management system. And that is going to be all encompassing. It's going to do your purchasing, your sales function, your stock process. If you've got that, it's going to be your finance system, your HR system. It's going to literally cover everything. Enterprise wide resource management is what it is. But what the reality is when you're a smaller business is that you have a finance system, you have a sales system, you have a stock system. And what we now have in this world of, modern technology in 2025 is those systems talk seamlessly. So it doesn't matter that they're separate anymore, as long as they connect seamlessly and it works.
Yeah.
And almost all of these systems work with like live API links. So you literally just connect them once by logging in. It's done. There's no programming. There's no bespoke settings to do anything like that. It's just literally the click of a button and it's a live data feed.
Everything talks into it.
Which is why we recommend Xero to our customers, because it has by far the biggest app store.
Yeah.
And it has a humongous budget behind it when it comes to development.
Yeah.
A lot of our clients come to us and they're using Sage, and it is literally Sage is actually older than me. It was bought out in I think the early 80s, and it's
the original system is like just tied to one computer, isn't it? If you've got the original version, it's like a desktop,
it's a piece of software on a disk.
It's not web-based, but
exactly.
But that's doing them a disservice, isn't it? Because they do have web-based.
They do have a web-based system, but they've bought it out many years after Xero, the leader, so they're behind in terms of functionality and technology. It's fair to say. So we spend a lot of time moving our clients onto Xero and then bolting on all these extra pieces of software that help them run their business really efficiently. And I think that's why we value tech so much. Is not only is it a fantastic place to work when you're using tech all the time and you're not doing mundane tasks and things like that, but from a pure financial perspective, I'm not ever paying a member of staff to do something that a computer can do. We pay the software costs and it does repeatable tasks and it makes things slick and it makes us really productive and really efficient and therefore more profitable.
And therefore the fact that the customer service is just off the charts. People are like, I can't get my accountant, won't call me back. Whereas your guys spend all and every day talking to your clients, advising them.
Because we have technology.
Because you've got time to do that. Great.
So once you've got Xero, we're going to give you 5 pieces of software that we recommend you should be bolting onto Xero to make it a full
super
business management system, if you like.
Yeah. Perfect. Great.
Okay. So the first one we're going to start with is some sort of CRM system. Now, I use the word CRM lightly because in some businesses, a CRM won't be as relevant and you'll be looking more for maybe like a planning resource system. So CRMs typically deal with your lead generation and your farming of your customers, sending marketing emails to people, things like that. So, ones like Pipedrive, for example, is one of the biggest names out there. Salesforce, for example, they're your classic CRM systems.
HubSpot. Yeah, those type of things.
And all of those link into Xero seamlessly.
Yeah.
Okay. So what that means is that a lot of the time you're doing quotes and things like that in your CRM system. Therefore, you're raising your sales invoices in your CRM system. Yeah. And you need those to just seamlessly integrate into Xero and just end up in Xero. You don't want to be having to manually retype those into Xero or anything like that.
Yeah.
But if you're maybe a more niche business or you work in an industry like logistics or something like that, you might have a more bespoke system like Mandata, Truckcom, something like that, that is more about planning of your scheduling.
Does SAP and Navision talk to Xero?
No. So Navision and SAP are those pure enterprise systems that are for bigger businesses. Okay. Generally 8 figures and above, I would say.
They wouldn't even have Xero be built into the finance function.
The finance function is built into those.
Got you, yeah.
So actually Navision is a legacy product now. It's a Microsoft product. It's been replaced with Dynamics. So probably your big 3 or 4 would be Oracle, SAP or SAP, Microsoft Dynamics, and then Infor if you're in the manufacturing or logistics industry.
Okay, so you've got your CRM, whatever that is. You've got your accounting software, which is Xero. What else you're bolting onto Xero? Okay.
So what we then recommend that pretty much every business uses is a system called Dext. And
Dext.
Dext. Now, what Dext does is you basically feed either sales invoices or purchase invoices or both. So if you've got a CRM that doesn't link to your Xero system and post your invoices automatically, get Dext. You email everything into this system. So when you're emailing invoices to your customers, just blind copy Dext in. And it uses OCR, which is optical character recognition, extracts all the information off the invoice and pre-populates everything, and then you can even have that system automatically post for you.
Okay.
Or you can go in, quick check of everything, click post, and it appears in Xero.
And it's amazing how that just seems like the tech seems like something that just Xero should do. And it's weird how Xero doesn't do these things, but other companies are stepping in to do this.
So Xero does do it. Xero has a free version of this called HubDoc. But honestly, it's a bag of crap. It's clunky. It's a horrible user interface. It's not great. You have to click save in 3 different sections. It's really not good. It's fine if you've got a low volume of documents, but if you're a 7-figure business, Dext is like 30 quid a month. This is like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Because also, in terms of the accuracy when it comes to extracting information from the document, I can say that we could probably process 1,000 invoices, and maybe absolute maximum would be 5% of them would have to correct something. So it might extract the date wrong or the invoice number or something. But really, Dext is so good at finding the invoice number, finding the date, finding the value, finding the VAT. It's phenomenal. It's a phenomenal system. And so for 30 quid, it's head and shoulders above its competitors. Another thing that I really like about Dext is it comes with 2 other little cool functionalities in it. So firstly, supplier statements. If you're a business that gets a lot of supplier statements, you email your statements into Dext and it reconciles them for you.
Amazing.
Puts a green tick next to the invoices that you've got and a red cross next to the ones you're missing. So you can go back to your suppliers and get copies. Saves a huge amount of time. Certainly from my corporate days, it would literally be somebody's full-time job to sit there and reconcile statements.
Yeah.
So, it really is game-changing technology we're talking about here. Also, another piece of technology that comes free with Dext is Fetch, where you can connect your Amazon account, your eBay account, your British Gas account, and it will pull invoices automatically from those systems into Dext for you. So you don't have to go and download your invoices every month.
Amazing.
So it really is, starts at £30 a month. Dext is game-changing. And if your accountant isn't using Dext, ask them why.
Or you, if you're doing it internally.
Yeah, if you've got it internally.
Great.
And sorry, I focus a lot on purchases there, but it does exactly the same thing for sales invoices.
Great. So, next one?
Next one is Apron.
Apron? What, I wear in the kitchen?
Yeah, kitchen apron. Yeah. Now, Apron's relatively new to the marketplace, and Apron does have the same functionality of Dext, and it can process invoices and things like that, but it's a lot more basic. Okay, so that's why we don't recommend it. But what Apron is phenomenal for is payment runs.
Okay.
So we have some clients that we prepare a payment run for. So we log all of their invoices for them on Xero, and then we have to decide which suppliers to pay.
Yeah.
And
so does Apron kind of group all the different payments into one run and decide to?
Yeah, so Apron pulls all of the information from Xero. It pulls all of your unpaid invoices, the due dates, the supply bank details, all of that kind of information. And you do have to go through and decide what suppliers to pay still. But this functionality doesn't really exist in Xero. Most people will have a look in Xero and then log on to their bank and set up a payment on their bank.
Yeah.
The reason why we recommend Apron is because Apron's got some really cool functionality in it. Like, for example, if you have a supplier set up in Xero with bank details, and then the invoice comes through and it's got different bank details on it. Apron tells you.
It'll flag it.
Yeah, it'll flag it. It also means that...
So that's good from a fraud perspective then.
Yes. It also means that from an accountancy practice perspective, so from our perspective, but also if you've got somebody in your team who is doing a payment run, they can do all the legwork, prepare everything, and then they send it to you, the person with the banking access, for approval, just to do, literally, it links to your bank. So all you need to do is put your password in and it's paid.
Fantastic.
And that's what's phenomenal about it, is that you've got different access controls. So you can have people prepare payment runs, people approve payment runs, people pay payment runs. You can also put your payroll files on there. You can put your VAT payments on there. Absolutely everything can go on there. It's also got some really favourable rates when it comes to making foreign payments too.
Brilliant.
What I also really like about it is that it enables you to use a credit or debit card to pay people.
Okay.
So if you want to pay suppliers on like an Amex, it's a
points,
really good way of racking up your points. Again,
Amazing.
Apron's about £25-30 a month. It's really not that much money for the functionality that you get with it.
Amazing.
So one of the things that we really like about Apron is it will allow you to tag suppliers as a direct debit supplier, which means they don't appear on your payment runs. And that is a functionality that is missing in Xero.
That's good. That is good. Because, of course, you don't want to pay them twice. Yeah. In fact, it's not just good, it's fucking essential.
It is essential, and it's missing in Xero, yeah.
So, yeah. Great. Next one?
Okay. So the next one that we use is a system called Mayday.
Ooh. Mayday. It sounds like emergency requirement. Is it that urgent?
So if you're a multi-entity business, Mayday is essential.
So if you've got multiple limited companies.
Yeah, multiple limited companies. So what the best feature about Mayday is that what you tend to find is that you've got one bigger business that is the cash cow, and you might use that to make a lot of payments to your suppliers and pay things out of one bank account. But actually, you might have, I don't know, like a direct debit set up from business A that's actually for business B.
Yeah. This is really typical in big corporates, isn't it? Where they just have one company that's the absolute cash cow and all the others are just feeding off it. Yeah.
So managing that from a process perspective, that doesn't exist in Xero.
Yeah.
Xero, you've got separate organisations. So the businesses, if you've got two limited companies, you've got two Xero subscriptions, essentially. They're not linked and there's no way of automating everything.
Okay.
Mayday does all of that for you.
Great.
So if something comes out of business bank account A, which is actually for business B, if you were doing it manually in Xero, you'd have to process it in business A to say what it was, go into business B and do exactly the same thing in there. Mayday does it all at the click of a button. So it's phenomenal. And it also helps you keep on top of all of your intercompany stuff. So whether you're just like paying things and you've got intercompany loans, or whether you've got recharges, and that's really common. You might have employees that cover both businesses, or you might have subscriptions that come out of one business and need to be shared across the two. All of that can be automated in Mayday. So you don't need to sit down every month or every quarter and think, okay, what have we got to recharge? Mayday does it all for you. It's a phenomenal piece of software.
Amazing. So we've got Xero, Dext, Apron, Mayday, a CRM, and the final one that we have?
The final one is a reporting package. Yeah. So Xero's basic. I think that's what we've got to stress here, is that Xero is...
I'm getting like the vibes that like Xero's like the engine.
Yes.
It's like the engine that sits behind it. But if you want like a 6-disc CD changer, you need Apron. And if you want like the Bose upgraded speakers in the rear, you need Dext.
I don't know what you're saying, but okay.
I'm just using a car analogy.
So your data is going to sit in Xero. That's what Xero does really well, is it organises your financial data. But what you've got is all these other tools that we bolt onto your financial data that make it easier to use and perform tasks with.
What these things are doing is they're bespoking Xero for the type of use that you've got, because like I say, Mayday is only relevant if you've got multiple limited companies, so you bolt that in because you need that. So I understand why Xero wouldn't make it out the box like this, because they can't make a one size fits all solution.
Exactly. And the vast majority of Xero's customers, as with all businesses in the UK, probably 80 to 90% of their customers are probably going to be sub 250k turnover. Yeah. So they don't need Apron, and they probably don't need Dext. So they're fine with the free version.
And Xero would be like any strategy. It's like you can't be everything to everyone.
Exactly.
But if they can service 90% of people, then they're doing a really good job of what they want to achieve without distracting themselves with the small 10%.
So what you have got is these really cool pieces of software that have been developed, like Apron, Dext, Mayday, that do these more niche tasks for the bigger businesses that allow them to grow and still use Xero before they have to think about going and installing a much bigger ERP system. Because if you're looking at getting like an Oracle, or if you wanted Infor or Microsoft Dynamics, like the next step up, you could be talking 6 figures to install that system.
Oh yeah, it's massive.
It's big bucks. It's big bucks, and it's like it's probably license fees starting at around £20,000 a year, sort of thing. Plus, you're going to need ongoing development and management of the system. It's big bucks. So the fact that Xero have made it so easy for software developers to integrate with their system really is phenomenal.
So this means Xero can effectively grow with the business as well to a certain point.
Yeah.
So they really, which I guess I get that. That's good for Xero because it keeps people on Xero longer.
Yes.
Before they end up
absolutely.
moving. So I understand why they're allowing this and they're encouraging it.
Yeah. So the final thing is a reporting suite, because the reporting functionality in Xero is really quite basic. Like, for example, you can't have a percentage on your P&L. So you don't know what your gross profit percentage is. It's just little things like that are really like bugbears about Xero that make it very restrictive when it comes to the reporting. So we recommend bolting on an additional reporting system. Now, these additional reporting systems, not only do they allow you to see what has happened, they're becoming phenomenal in terms of forecasting what is going to happen. So particularly when we're looking at cash flow, or when you're thinking, I'm going to do this big project, or I'm going to quote on this big project for this customer, what would that do to my cash flow? You can build that all sort of in quite easily, and the system does the grunt work and spits the numbers out the other side for you.
Yeah, great.
So our system of choice is a system called Fathom. That's our preference. Yeah, Fathom. But other ones out there are Data Rails, Sift, and some of the other big names, SYFT as well.
There's a few choices.
There's loads out there, and they all pretty much do the same thing. It's much more about the usability of them.
Yeah.
What I would say is that if you're a business that has cost centers, or in Xero they're called tracking categories, so you like to track like departments in your business essentially, then there's a smaller software package called Join, JOIIN. That's really good when you have got that set up with cost centers.
Great. Amazing.
Yeah.
So that's a little look under the hood of what you guys do, and people can just swipe and deploy that into their business if they're of a size where they're going to benefit many of them. Again, they're not going to. This is why your tech stack needs to be bespoke to you, because this is relevant because you're dealing with clients that have all these different challenges and different sizes, and there'll be people that are like, I get the Dext thing, but I don't need the Mayday thing, and they can just build out what they need. But they should certainly think about really embracing the bolt-ons in Xero, or most importantly, just making sure that the accountant that they're working with is this tech savvy, that they are embracing everything that the world has, because it makes your life easier. I mean, if your accountant's coming to you and telling you you've got to log into a website every month to get your phone bill out or something like that, that's your time. And,
do you know what?
And it's your accountant that can make, like, we're in a place now where you should be questioning everything because the tech is actually completely there. So if your accountant says, no, there's no other way of doing it, you've got to log in every month and get the mobile phone bill, then just not a good enough accountant, because it's just rubbish, because the tech's out there now that we can make that problem go away for business owners. I think there's so many times where there's like, if you're thinking that's a problem, it's sapping my time and it's really annoying, chances are that there's a piece of tech out there that's solved it. There's not many gaps in the market. And I think, like I say, if your accountant is just bringing the problem to your door every time, that's just more time that you're losing and more distraction from what you're supposed to be doing in your business. You're not supposed to be distracted having to log in to grab invoices and various other things or whatever else you're being asked to do.
And regardless of whether you have like a bookkeeper in-house or whether you have an external person, it's about getting value for money. So if you're paying £1,000 a month for accountancy, what do you want that £1,000 to go on? Data processing? Or do you want it to go on intelligent reporting and insights and process improvements? And, it's about getting more bang for your buck. There is technology out there now that literally can do all of the transactional, take the grunt work out of things so that what your finance person needs to deal with exceptions and higher level stuff. So there's just no reason to still be manually processing invoices. It's absolutely absurd.
I think the challenges with this is that. If you've got a bookkeeper, the biggest barrier to these things is often the people themselves. We've said this, you've said this to me, that a bookkeeper sees this as a threat to their job. And it at a business owner level, it doesn't need to be that. What it can be is all of a sudden that bookkeeper's particular tasks, which are very repetitive, become, half the time that they take. And you can utilize that person in your business somewhere else, covering reception, covering admin, covering something else, or just growing the business. It's not about the threats to people. It's about making it more efficient, isn't it? What it might mean is as you grow, you don't need to keep taking on so many people because a role can become multiple roles. But the barrier you will have is if you let your own bookkeeper drive their own tech ideas forward, they'll probably see it as a threat and not drive it forward. So it does need to be controlled at a top level down. It's a strategic decision, isn't it?
Yeah. And one of the things that has become a bit sexier over the last few years is like these big accountancy shows in London, in Birmingham. Accountex is one that literally just happened last week. And, all these, go back 20 years ago and there'd be people selling notebooks and, these big software packages that they're sold on floppy disks at the trade shows and stuff. And now it's all these tech companies like cool kids in their trainers, in their jeans that are creating these really cool pieces of tech. And most of this isn't even AI driven. That's what's really interesting.
It's just good code. It's just
algorithm. Code. Yeah. What I cannot wait to see what happens is when we start bringing AI into it.
Yeah, interesting. Well, the whole fintech world, usually it's to do with personal finance, but actually there is a fintech world for business finance, isn't there? And it's massive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. I think that's really fascinating, Claire, really useful for everybody. And let's see what's in this week's Profit Cash Growth Extra. So this week, Claire, you've got a new iPhone. Time to upgrade.
This is a complete tech show today, isn't it?
It is. It's all tech.
Areas of tech.
It's almost like I plan the scripts from the podcast and I actually prepare, make it flow, make it quite nice for the listener. Anyway, you've upgraded your iPhone, but that's not what the Profit Cash Growth Extra is about.
Yeah.
You've done something really cool and it was born out of necessity because I complained about something last night. Tell the story.
So I got a new iPhone 16 and you were telling me that you don't use Siri. And I use Siri quite a lot. It. But firstly, I find Siri responds too slowly to me. But now you can speed Siri up. So Siri responds to me on 1.25, which is...
most humans respond far too slowly to you. That's the reality. So I don't think that you can expect...
So you can speed Siri up. But we were having a conversation about you prefer to use ChatGPT and you're dead into having these like two-way conversations with ChatGPT all the time.
I showed you last night. It was amazing because I asked them, I said, didn't I? I said to ChatGPT that I was a business owner. I own a 7-figure business and I'm looking for an accountant to help me grow. Who would you recommend? And literally recommended Profit Cash Growth. It was and it literally said exactly what you do.
What was on our website.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the point of this.
Yeah.
I like using Siri, but I don't really like the responses from Siri. The way that it kind of like reels off just like a list of websites that I can go to, like it's a Google search. It's a shit user experience. So you can program Siri to use ChatGPT, the voice activation in ChatGPT.
Yeah, that is mind-blowing.
So there's an app on your phone called Shortcuts.
Yep.
And it's an Apple app for creating shortcuts and tricks and making things quicker in your phone. You can go into Shortcuts and just really add a new shortcut to open the voice section of ChatGPT, and then you tell it what you're going to say to activate it. So now I say, hey Siri, ask AI, and then when that happens, rather than Siri responding, I'm getting the response from ChatGPT.
That's cool, isn't it?
Because now
That's
Siri
really
is
cool.
using ChatGPT
GPT.
instead of its own, what is actually Google search functionality.
Yeah.
So if you are a ChatGPT fan, but you don't like the
hate
fact that
Siri.
you can't activate it with Siri,
Activate it with voice. Yeah.
that's how you get around it.
That's how you.
So you need to
effectively,
create a shortcut.
the Profit Cash Growth Extra this week is way of activating ChatGPT through voice recognition, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, because at the moment you have to have the app open and you have to click on the microphone.
Yeah. We couldn't find a way to do it. I bet they're going to fix that at some point. I bet they're going to change that. But I guess not owning the hardware, they might find it hard to ever do that. So don't know. But yeah, that's pretty cool stuff, Claire. Thanks for that one this week. And as always, if you think you may have outgrown your current account and you'd like to work with Claire and team Profit Cash Growth, you can go over to the website profitcashgrowth.com. As always, please listen back to any of the podcasts that we've done. They're all very evergreen. Lots and lots of tips, tricks and things to help you manage your finances better and grow your business. And as always, if you can copy the link to this podcast, send it to a friend. If that friend also owns a business, that would be amazing. And we will see you again next week.